my eye. Through the mist, my surprise shone light from distant northern skies. At that point, I realized I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. If this is all an illusion, then I'm willing to play.
Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show, interviews with awakened masters as they share their quantum work with you. The Quantum Guide Show is produced by Karen Holton, creator of the 9 Steps to Quantum Health Transformation, a free 9-step online course to give you the tips and resources you need to thrive. Karen lost and continues to keep off 178 pounds of surplus body weight as she made her dreams come true. Whether you are awakening to the ascension process or simply want a wiser, more efficient lifestyle, this program is for you. No strings attached. The Quantum Guide Show is brought to you in part by Zendome's Orgonite, Karen's unique brand of orgone generators, ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. Find out how orgone generators work and what they can do for you. Don't be fooled by imitations. Check out Karen's current selection, only available from her website, KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, and on Facebook, facebook.com/Quantum Health Transformation. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. My special guest today is Hummingbird Jewel, and we are going to talk about self-love. But first, let me tell you a little bit about this amazing woman. Hummingbird Jewel is also known as Julia Rogers. She holds a doctorate of divinity through the Universal Life Church and has studied spirituality and metaphysics since 1974. Hummingbird Jewel was influenced at an early age by her own personal experiences of mystical events, clairvoyance, and automatic writing. Her adventures in utilizing her psychic gifts began in 1996 while working as a psychic reader for the Psychic Eye bookstore in Mount View, California. She continued to do her readings privately while working in corporate environments, and she currently resides in the Woodlands, Texas, and in Norman, Oklahoma. After 10 years in the human resources field, she left the corporate environment to start her own business called A Nanny Extraordinaire, which she ran very successfully until 2017. And since then, she launched Hummingbird Jewel Enterprises, also known as HBJ Enterprises, which is an umbrella for her many services and products, which include Jewellia Oil, her mystical signature fragrance, reverse aging. At 61, she is the face for reverse aging. Hummingbird Jewel is a brand partner with Neora, and she represents organic wellness and skincare products. She also is a new skin representative, sharing products and her own secrets on how to reverse the aging process. She is also a personal mentor and coach, offering an abundance of wisdom on topics such as relationships, finances, business, health, and spirituality. Julie has overcome many personal challenges to create for herself a life of abundance and joy. Through a healthy lifestyle, she has transformed her life from being a maid to having it made. After over 40 years of dedicated studies in different healing modalities, she teaches how to integrate and harmonize your body and to meditate for emotional and physical healing. Julia can guide you on a personal journey for healing and discovery, including access to the universal consciousness. She finds that healing on emotional, physical, and spiritual levels can occur when we explore the endless possibilities that the quantum field offers. Julia also offers detailed vibrational psychic readings via email, Zoom, and phone. Hummingbird Jewel, in effect, came out as a psychic to share her gifts with the world. Her mission statement for her life and her business is to teach love by being an example of love. Further, Julia produces a weekly show called Solutions, a book review show for mind readers, which you can find on your YouTube channel under the name of Hummingbird Jewel. The links will be below. It airs every Tuesday at 12 noon Pacific or 2 o'clock Central, and this show is dedicated to uplifting authors who are bringing soulful messages to the world. These interviews will give the listeners in-depth concepts and spontaneous teachings. She also is the co-host on the radio show called Heaven on Earth with Cornelia Stephanie, which airs every third Friday at 12 noon Pacific or 2 o'clock Central on Transformation Talk Radio, where she is currently teaching a series on spiritual laws. Every month, she presents a new spiritual law along with corresponding blog for deeper understanding. She also discusses reverse aging and gives live mini vibrational readings. Hummingbird Jewel has appeared on the Universal Consciousness Show with Augie Nost, Life in the Hologram with Merlin Wiz, Angel Rock Radio with Laura Lee Potvin, and Aquarian Radio with Janet Kira Lesson. Be sure to check out her YouTube channel and please like, subscribe, and share. The links are again below in the description box. Just a couple more mentions. Julia loves giving back and serves as an ambassador for 1 million meditators. Her belief in meditation is paramount. And as an advanced student of Dr. Joe Dispenza, she serves weekly with Global Healing Zoom meditation groups. Together, the world comes together to do distant healing for children, adults, and animals. Julie has a great love for children and is an active volunteer as a wish granter for the Make-A-Wish Foundation for over the last 12 years. Julie has also traveled and served as a missionary to the Dominican Republic, Guatemala, and Africa. She has served as a volunteer for the CASA and sponsored a child from the Dominican Republic via Children of the Nations for over 8 years until he was over 18 years old. And 10% of her donations received from readings, coachings, and 10% of all profits from products are donated to charity or individuals in need. It is her dream to someday have a perpetual charitable foundation for the benefit of children, which will be called Hummingbird Jewel Charitable Foundation. Julia is passionate about her work to help and guide others, giving back via her charitable work as she strives to accomplish her mission statement every day, to teach love by being an example of love. Welcome, Julia, to the Quantum Guide Show. The topic for today is self-love.
Well, thank you, Karen. How beautiful. What a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much. I just really appreciate you. We have a lot in common.
We do.
As far as our childhoods go, I also had a very, I had a mommy dearest kind of a mother and not much of a dad. He was always working. And so I know what it's like to be raised like that. And then I also had metaphysical experiences, and I didn't have anybody to share them with. And then I just became skeptical of it, kind of ashamed almost. You know, you don't know what to think when you're so little, you know, so.
Absolutely. So how did you, I'm curious, obviously you found self-love and I found self-love or we wouldn't have survived. How does self-love, how does that play into the work that you do, Julia?
You know, I thought about that when I was researching and learning about who you were. And I thought about both of us as little children, not raised in this, you know, nurturing, loving environment. How come we both turn out to be teachers of love? You know, I mean, both of us have that. And so I really, you know, question that. And the only thing that I can think of is that, you know, I say we break down to break through. And I think when you have that severe angst and sorrow, and sometimes we even wanted to give up, you know, wanted to, you know, I don't want to be here anymore feelings, you know, you get to that depth. And then I believe, we have that connection to the superconscious mind. And when you have that feeling of love, that divine feeling of love, then all of a sudden you forgive the mother, you forgive the absent father, you realize we're all one. Then you start to take responsibility for being here. I mean, you get this glimpse, right, of that, oh, I'm getting the goosies, the law of oneness, how we're all one. Well, then, that kind of passes and we get back into our human body, and then we'll have our ego playing around with us. It's not like we're perfect divine beings, but I believe that that's part of it. I believe our, I called yours atrocities. I don't know that mine was quite as severe as yours, your experiences. It's hard to compare,
Yeah.
But I mean, I had like molestation, I had severe verbal abuse, I had physical abuse. I was never good enough, always trying to, get mommy to love me, that kind of, and that's followed through into my adulthood. And I had to work through the molestations because, believe it or not, you'll feel guilty about it, even though you were 7 years old. Like you think it's your fault or something like that, I had drug addiction, I went through drug addiction and alcohol addiction. Actually, addiction to everything, tobacco, drugs, alcohol, you name it. Had to overcome all these things, So I think we find love through our adversities. I don't know about you, but I feel like I had to do that,
Absolutely. I look back at my life and I don't even tell people too much of the really gruesome stuff because it's very upsetting to other people.
Yeah.
But the point is it all made me who I am today. And even the mother who was not there for me at all, similar to you, she was just really absorbed in herself. But she still gave me the gifts that I need today. And it's like Augie Nost always says, you'll get the nut, but you got to crack it. We got everything that's ever happened to us. We can use it to hold us back, or we could use it to propel us forward. And you mentioned also forgiveness. What an incredible tool that is. People who just don't want to even try to forgive are missing the boat, in my opinion, because it's given me so much. It's given me an opportunity to, again, show myself self-love by letting it go and letting it just be what it is and having compassion for where that other person may have been at the time. Not saying any of it was right, but I find forgiveness is a really big part. So I'm not sorry for anything in my past because it absolutely gave me what I have today. And that's a lot.
I agree with you 100%. I say that I am the sum of all my experiences, both good and bad. And honestly, I would not take back a thing because I learned from them that made me who I am. And I'm afraid that, like, say if I had a wonderful mother, I might have turned out to just be a spoiled, self-centered, unawakened person. Who knows? I mean, so, and then there's the concept of soul contracts. And I don't know if all that is real. I'm starting to believe more in that as I meet more people that speak to the other side and the lessons that they're bringing back, and that we choose our, hardships, because if you can't experience it, how are you going to help anybody else? I have empathy for homeless. I was homeless. It wasn't a long time, and it really wasn't what a typical homeless person you would think. I got locked out of the house is what happened to me, but that made me homeless, right? It was by my husband. And so, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? And I couldn't get any help from welfare because I didn't have children, I found out. And I mean, I had to go ask for help for people. And I was taken care of. But I have always looked at homeless people in a different way now because I know what that feels like, right? Because you can judge people that you don't know what they've walked through. And so I agree that, I am the sum of all my experiences. I just wrote a blog, and I'm doing the blogs on spiritual laws, and every month Divine gives me the law that I'm supposed to write about. And this month was the law of polarity. And honestly, I didn't really know much about it. Well, this long blog came out, but it really talks about there's opposites, right? So there's love to hate. And so when you have the two, it makes a circuitry. So if you just had love and love, you got two positives, right? So if you put two positives into the flashlight, it's not going to turn on, right? You have to have one positive, one negative. So when you have your positive and your negative, you get a circuitry and it lights up. And so I think you and I have had a lot of circuitry going on. But I also, that's part of, there's a positive event and a negative event. You can polarize that. So what's the positive out of me being molested? Well, I forgave. Now, forgiveness I didn't have to forgive the molester and go hug him and, shake his hand. It was more about forgiving myself for feeling guilty, for thinking I had a part in it, forgiving him because he's a sick person, right? I look at him as a sick individual. Molestations and molesters are sick. They have compulsions, and then you kind of observe them as a sick person. The forgiveness wasn't for him at all. It was for me. So that I could be free from hating him and free in general. And when I found out that he died, I didn't cry. I didn't, say, oh, I love you. I really just didn't feel much of anything, but that's okay. So people are like, oh, how can you, make good out of horrible atrocities in your life? Well, you can. I did have to work through the whole process of it. Remember exactly what happened. I had to do some digging up. I had to clean the wound out so it would heal correctly. That's self-love. That's loving yourself enough to, and then what if you did something that's bad? Like I didn't read the Bible till I was in my 40s. I was raised by atheists. So when I read the New Testament and I read the Bible, and I kind of knew about the 10 Commandments because I'd had a little bit of church when I was really small. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've broken every one of these commandments. And people are going, oh, did you kill somebody? No, but I had an abortion. And, that was my choice at age 21, 22. And I'm not putting down anybody that has an abortion because I had one. I know what that feels like. But still, I had a lot of guilt and remorse from that. I was never able to have children. And so people think I'm just this wonderful person. She does all this for the children. Well, part of that is my payback for myself, right? It's loving myself back for a decision that I made when I was in my 20s. And it could have been the right decision for that at the time. I don't know. I'm not going to second guess it. But you can do what's called, it's like making amends, for yourself. And when I found out I couldn't have children, I started to become really dark. That moment that I woke up and I found the doctor had taken my last ovary, and I just thought, I'm not going to have children. And I started to go dark and feel total darkness and separation from the light. And then I heard this voice, and it said, Julia. It was like this authoritative voice, I don't know if it was the drugs or what, but it was a voice, and it sounded like Earl James Jones. Like, you'll be mother to many. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means, but I fell asleep. But I remembered it, and the light came back. And so after I woke up, I thought, what's that mean, being mother to many? Well, then I subsequently got involved with, the sponsoring of the children, the mission trips. I became a nanny for 8 years, got to take care of other people's children, and doing the Make-A-Wish. So, you can just turn, all your breaking of the commandments, the lying, the stealing, I've done it all. And then turn it around, and then not judge others. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Like, I have a really, really good life right now, but it hasn't always been like that. I had to, when I say from being a maid to having it made, I'm not putting down maids. Nannies are maids. We take out the garbage, we clean up dog poop, baby poop, we're maids, and I loved being a nanny, so I don't put down anybody that even works as a maid, period. I've done that too. It's just kind of a play on words.
It's really good. I was a nanny too, actually. Oh yeah, I worked for years in the restaurant business, serving tables, and I've actually have been also homeless, and I've been through everything too. But it's It was all very temporary, and it really brought into sharp focus that my guides were there. You know, my higher consciousness was looking after me. It is when you don't have much, the blessings are really obvious, and everything is in focus. I find. I wanted to ask you. Did you always treat your body well, or was that something that with the awakening and coming into who you are today that you then started to pay attention to? You know, regards, you mentioned addictions. I also have stripped off addiction after, and it's funny, it's like layers on an onion, and you think you're finally at the center, and now it's my cell phone, right? But what about stuff like how you ate and getting enough sleep and things like that? Did you always take care of yourself? Because you're so lovely. You look like you've always had a perfect diet.
And I'm 61 right now, and absolutely not. People will say, "Oh, you're so pretty and vibrant. You must have really looked good when you were
Yeah, yeah,
20."
you do. You
I'm
look
like, not so much, because I was doing drugs and I was drinking alcohol, and I was like smoking cigarettes. I smoked cigarettes until my 40s, late 40s. Not like chain smoker, but I was smoking and everything. I didn't do the needles because I was scared of them. Thank God. Thank God for that. And I wasn't a street addict. I always worked. But boy, when I get off work, that would be, the party would begin. I don't know how I made it through college either. That was something else. But I did not treat my body well. I wasn't raised on organic foods. My mom raised me from mac and cheese, and we had sugar pops on the table. And just from childhood. And so I did get to a point when I had a vision when I was really drunk one time, and it was like Scrooge. Like, my psychic abilities have really helped me a lot. So this vision showed me the end of that lifeline if I continued to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not pretty. It was the deranged, homeless old woman alone, and then the unmarked grave, similar to Scrooge. But it was so real. And the next morning I woke up very hungover, but truly remembering this vision, and I went, I've got to stop drinking. But I'd already quit the drugs, and I kind of, like you said, peeled it off. First I quit this, and then I quit that. But I was drinking. Well, I was an occasional drinker. I drank occasionally every day. Okay, let's put it that way. And especially when I'd come home from work. So I wasn't a low bottom drunk, like they call it. I didn't lose my whole house and my career and get drunk driving. I had the vision when I was pretty much up here. And I had tried quitting drinking several times. And for some reason, after a couple of months, all of a sudden I found myself drinking again. I'm like, okay, I've been able to quit everything else, but drinking, I'm going to go to AA. So I walked into AA, and I just said, I don't know how to quit drinking. And I did everything they told me to do. Everything. And I've been sober for 18 years now. So I used AA to help me with the alcohol. But alcohol is very poisoning to your body, So letting go of the drugs, letting go of the alcohol. And I'm not against anybody that drinks. I was not a good drinker.
Mm-hmm.
My hair would get drunk. I couldn't stop after just 2 glasses like a lady. I would just keep going, and it was just not good for me. So again, I don't judge anybody, right? Because I've been there. But for me, and the reverse aging for me isn't really about the outside beauty part. It's about the inside of your body staying healthy and your organs staying healthy. And so if you don't have a brain, it doesn't matter what you look like, right? If you can't speak, if your brain can't function, if your muscles and your bones ache and you're in constant pain, what kind of a quality of life can you have? It took me years actually to get to where I'm at today, pain-free. And that's kind of when I got into meditation and in clarinet. So I do use holistic products now. I represent Neora for my holistic products. And a lot of that has to do with brain health, gut health. That's the first 2 things I start with people. And then your frequency, your body's energetic frequency, because we're all energy, right? So that's one thing. If people ask me, what's your one beauty tip that you use every single day? That's listening to frequency music. I do it in the morning. I do it in the evening. Because when you sleep, your subconscious mind that runs your body, and it does its job when you're sleeping, right? When you're out of the way, it can do the calibration of all your organs and whatever it does. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a nutritionalist or an expert, but I do know that. So sleep is very important, but that's kind of what I do for reverse aging. And so I turned it around, and I'm healthier than I ever was. I'm not a skinny mini. I weigh about 145 to 40, about 145, and I'm 5'4". But I did a bikini photo shoot at 60, because I did that because that was a goal for me. I don't like running. I don't like racing. I don't like competition. So I thought, well, if I'm going to get in front of a photographer in a bikini, I better look good. Like, it was just kind of a mental thing. And I did my first one at 50. And then I thought, I wonder if I can do one at 60. And so I had like this 10-year goal, but I wasn't like completely stick figure when I had it, And I want to just feel good about my body and myself. So that's why I do stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. It came to me. I was a hard nut to crack, and so I needed a fair amount of trauma for me to get to that point where I could drop my own resistance. And you probably could relate to this, having some trauma in your life. Trauma makes it so it's very difficult to drop our resistance because we're always white knuckling it through life. And so I seemed to need that. And then what happened is one time I was very, very ill. I couldn't even get out of bed. And it occurred to me, and I think I was meant from that experience to learn this, was that I could have had $10 million. And if I can't get out of bed, it isn't worth anything. I could have had all the popularity in the world, and if I can't get out of bed and I'm in so much pain I can't move, it doesn't mean anything. And it was a huge wake-up call for me. I didn't lose weight, until I was 50. And then, of course, my guides had a part to play in that. And it's just about, for me, it's about having a body that moves comfortably, a mind that gravitates towards happiness, a spirit that moves towards joy. And that's my natural default, unless something happens. I might get a migraine headache, or I might get a fibromyalgia flare up, or who knows what. But my default is this comfortable existence that I didn't know was possible. And then for me, my foundation thing, energy, yes, I agree with you 100% on that. But me, it's really important for me to only eat real food that's as chemical free and as cruelty free as humanly possible. And so it's been, I would say, the biggest challenge for me is to just, I'm with you as far as the alcohol goes. I also had to quit drinking. I just turned into instant asshole, just add alcohol. And after one drink, it was never enough. It was terrible, but I dealt with it and I quit. But food for me is also really, really important because I have to stay on the straight and narrow. And the reason isn't because I feel guilty or ashamed or anything like that. It's because then I can hold the frequency and the energy like what you were talking about. And I'm very close to my spirit guides. And then again, that wonderful comfort for the body, that happiness for the mind, that joyful spirit. There is not enough money in the world to buy such a precious experience. Would you agree, Julia?
I do. And as you were talking, I was laughing at myself because when I was doing drugs and alcohol is a depressant, you think it makes you feel good. I remember singing that I was the king of pain. I think it was a song by Sting at the time. And I was like, I'm the king of pain. Like, I was so negative. I was negative about everything. And now, like you said, my default is joy, and just open yourself. That's my acronym for joy, because hummingbirds represent joy and they're high vibratory. Hummingbird jewel. And so I look back and talk about polarized. I mean, I just talk about not loving myself. Everything was happened to me, my poor childhood, just, oh my gosh. But I'm so glad that I was able to turn it around. And you're right. I mean, you want to start the day off with thoughts of love, and we don't always do that. And if you find yourself starting your day off like a little like, oh wow, this is not going good. It's 10 a.m. and I'm swearing at my computer and yelling at my phone. And what's going on? You can start your day over. You can just say, okay, restart. Start my day over right now. What is important? Who do you love? Yeah, I love you. Louise Hay, making you look in the mirror and say, I love you.
Yeah.
That was so hard.
It's so hard to start. I know.
I couldn't do it. I was like, I love you. And I couldn't look at myself. And I was like, wow, this is hard to do. I had to practice before I could actually look at myself in the mirror and say, I love you. And so our mirroring of ourselves is so important. And a lot of it's just, for me, I know came from I'm not good enough from mommy. Like you have to go way back, like find, all the way, where does that thread go, that line go all the way back? And then when you see that, you can acknowledge and go, oh, okay. Well, guess what? I'm not 3 years old anymore. You acknowledge your 3-year-old self and then you try. And even at 61, I still have some, I am not good enough. So every once in a while, I feel them coming up. I'm like, oh, I know where they're coming from. So I'm not actually perfect. I'm still working at myself. I still find things where I have little hiccups, so.
Yeah. Now, do you think it's ever too late to start a self-love program, including which actually is also kind of synonymous with reverse aging? Do you think it's ever too late?
Absolutely not. And the body is so resilient, and that from overcoming cancer, which I haven't done that, but I did overcome emotional addiction. Believe it or not, you can get addicted to emotions. So it wasn't substances. I was emotionally addicted to abandonment. And so I kept getting these abandonment things happening over and over and over. Well, I was blaming the other people, right? Oh, they did this to me. And then finally I realized, wait a minute. There's one common denominator in all these things that keep happening exactly the same as me. So you have to look at yourself and go, oh man, I'm causing this. So yeah, emotional addictions can be overcome, and physical. Okay, so I had horrible back pain and they called it arthritis. I don't usually like to say the word out loud because there's no cure. The doctor's going to tell you there's no cure. Or a virus, there's no cure for it. Well, I just don't believe it. You did it, but I just I acknowledge that it's there because I can feel the pain. I can see the x-rays. But she's like, oh, Julia, you have arthritis in your neck. And I'm like, really? Okay. And she's like, why is she smiling? I said, well, can you show it to me? And I'm all pleasant. She's like, here it is. I go 1 to 10. How bad? Oh, it's an 8. I go, okay, thank you. And she's just like, what? I was glad to know so that when I meditated, I could meditate on that. And I have no problems with that. Sometimes I can hear it, like I can hear the crunchy crunch, but I don't have any pain from it. And the pain in my back is completely gone now. But it took me years to do that. And I think we all have our own individual recipe. I could tell you how I got rid of it, but it might not work for you. Because I had to use some spiritual hypnosis, some ancestral clearing, lots of meditation, some frequency calibration. It was like a recipe, and then now I'm pain-free. So it's just a matter of your body's so resilient. So I didn't really get pain-free until just a couple of years ago, and I'm 61 now. So yeah, you can start at any time. And you can reverse it. You can reverse your body's illnesses too, right?
Yes. Well, I really liked what you said too about how you don't call it arthritis. I didn't have cancer. I had cancer symptoms, and I
Okay.
actually didn't cure it. I took it to universal consciousness, and I says, well, let's see. I'm just going to resist the urge of owning any of it. I'm not saying I don't have it. I'm not saying I do have it, but I'm just going to float it out there, and I will do whatever you inspire me to do. And so I had to do things like I went for long walks. I was very careful with my diet. There were things I did that was my part. And then 3 months later, when I saw the surgeon, there was no symptoms. And so that not owning the label, which I loved what you said about that, which leads into personal responsibility and even self-discipline. Would you say that's also a part of self-love?
Absolutely. That was just like me realizing that I was causing my own problems in my life instead of pointing the fingers at the other people. So
Mm-hmm.
it's awareness, and then like, okay, well, where did it come from? And then you find out kind of where it came from. Well, that doesn't even do all the work. You got to work on it, on yourself. So I'm not completely, every single day. I got to keep myself in tune, and then also be gentle with myself. Like sometimes when I get on the lower tracks and I'm just kind of feeling bummed, like I was the other day, I just kind of wasn't feeling good. I was feeling a little paranoid. I was feeling a little, just having some weird thoughts. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to fight this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to give it importance. I'm going to acknowledge that's where I'm at. And I'm going to realize that God always takes care of me, right? Always. And to me, God is light. So I know God triggers some people, and I don't blame them because wasn't raised, Christian. So, and when I see some of the Christian things, and I can understand where that word would be, but to me, it's just light. It's the
Mm-hmm.
great light, and it doesn't have a body. So, but I know I've always been taken care of, and I'll just go, okay, you're having a little down day, and polarize it. Okay, I'm having a down day, and tomorrow I'll probably feel a lot better, and I just let it go. But you don't stay down too long. That I will not allow. Like it's just If it's like the second day going on, okay, get your butt out of bed or whatever. You had your little time to boo-hoo whatever you were boo-hooing about. And also there's the 3-day rule. Things always look different in 3 days. It's always about our perception of something.
Absolutely.
And we have our egos, and I don't know who coined this. It was not me. I wish I could remember who it was. My ego's my amigo. So I know everybody demonizes your ego, but it's a gatekeeper, and it just doesn't want things to change, and it wants to control you. It's your mind, and it wants to be in control, and you've got to get range on the ego. And you got to kind of like work with it. That's the best thing to do. Don't fight the ego. Work with it. Say, can you just loosen up a little bit on me and let me try out this new practice? Oh God, there she goes again, meditating, or whatever the ego wants to do, oh, what are you trying to do? I don't want you to get into the subconscious mind and mess up the programs. Well, we got some old programs in there, and they're old. We need to upload some new ones. And you kind of have to deal with your different levels of consciousness. And when you were talking about the divine consciousness, have you read Anita Moorjani's book, Dying to Be Me? So she was stage 5 cancer, didn't quite die. She didn't really have an NDE because she wasn't, dead on the table. Connected with the superconscious mind, came back and completely healed. Right? And she goes around telling that story, being that's kind of what you did. You connected to consciousness and just said, hey, what do I need to do? And then you followed the guidance, right? So we can do that, but you have to connect. And to connect, you really need to learn a little few things, breathing, and you can meditate while you're taking a walk. You don't have to sit there and chant. Oh, you can. Mantras are a way of getting the mind to calm down for some people. Me, I'm extremely visual, so I love guided meditations. I am sitting on a rock, looking at those. Oh, I can just like start visualizing, right? Other Other people need the silence, you know, they can't have any words. But that's how we connect. We get the ego to relax, set aside, and let higher self connect to the universal consciousness, God, whatever people want to call it, and then bring that back in to our bodies, into our human experience, right?
Mhm.
Kind of how we do distant healing too, right?
Yeah. I'm wondering too how this fits in with your work with Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm a big fan of his too. And I got to tell you, the first time I did one of his meditations with him, just from watching him on YouTube, I was amazed at how at one I was with everything. Can you talk a little bit about your work with him?
Yeah, well, I watched the movie What the Bleep back in 2004, I think. So that's how I remembered him, the Create Your Day guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was going through the abandonment addiction realization, I was like, okay, well, how do I get rid of it, right? I didn't know. And I did the whole analyzation. I studied abandonment experts. I knew where it came from. And I was age 3 when my birth father, blah, blah, blah. But I was still experiencing it. So my guidance, divine guidance speaks to me. Thank you. And it said, how about Dr. Joe? You know, it doesn't talk in a voice, but it'll kind of like a ticker tape. And then I always argue with it. Oh, yeah, I know Dr. Joe, blah, blah, blah. So then it was like, okay, I'll read his book. So I got the Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, which is very scientific, which I liked because it kind of explained how my brain neurons work and how I can create pendulums, which are thought constructs, thought forms, you know, how I can break up the thought forms and how it takes a while. Even when you break them up, they'll want to come back together. These are your neurons in your brain and they form, you know, that almost like alive entities. So I got all that, and then I heard, well, why don't you try his meditations? Oh, okay. So I go online, and back then, thank God, he didn't have that many, and I didn't know which ones to do. So I purchased the Blessing of the Energy Centers. They only had one now, and they're coming out with 8. So this is 2015. And then I picked out Body Parts version 2, which is not available anymore on their website, but if you email them, they'll send it to you. I listened to Body Parts version 2 one time, and I had a spontaneous healing from the emotional addiction. And I was in so much pain at that time for over like 8 months. I was ruminating over a person that had left me, even though that person left me in a horrific way. Like you normally would say, well, I don't want to even think about that person. Instead, I was. And I couldn't get out of it. So I was just, my girlfriend was just going crazy with me, you know, and can't get over it, you know, and I'm like, So I was sold because, and then I knew that listening to that meditation just one time, okay, you've got to keep listening to it, right? Because you've got to form your new baby neural network, the one that's not addicted anymore. So I just kept using the Blessing of the Energy Centers, which is blessing of your chakras, aligning my chakras. I used those 2 tapes for CDs for a long time. And then I went to one of his progressive workshops, and then I went to an advanced workshop. And so I continue to use them. I love his meditations. They're great. But back healing took a couple of years. So I worked on that for a while. I could not get rid of my back pain for a while, but there was, like I said, just different things I needed to do to fix that. So some people do have spontaneous healings. Wow, one time. And other times it takes a few years, and you can't give up before the miracle happens. You know, a lot of us do. Like, it's not working for me. You've been doing it for 6 weeks. Well, you know, how long have you been in pain, or how long have you had this addiction, or how long has your brain been wired that way? 6 weeks is not very long, you know, even a year to redo your mindset, you know, and
Yeah, I would totally agree with you there. For me, depending on where I'm at, because I'm never always the same kind of way of being, for me, sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 back. So I may have done fantastically well in a certain healing of a certain aspect of my health, but then sometimes down the road, it will resurface again, but it never takes as much energy or as long to get that back into remission again. So I find with me, I kind of need little refreshers from time to time. And then I also need to look at how hard have I been working and how much time am I spending. I tend to, my adult self all wants to take over and wants to create things that I can say, oh, look, I did this, I did this, I did this to myself. Whereas my inner child will only wait so long. And then it actually can be a little bit of a bugger to me because because it needs to be played with. Like the child side of me also needs to be loved and needs to have some spontaneous play. And I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but even to the point of sometimes I have to go across the street to the park and go on the swings for a while because that's what my inner child needs. So it's really quite hilarious being me because I have all these different aspects of myself. If I spend too much time in the adult, then I have issues with the child. If I spend too much time with the child, well, then the adult's saying, "Come on, we gotta get things done in this three-dimensional reality, Karen." Anyway, I don't know if you have anything like that, but it's just
So why do you think we were nannies? Because children see our inner child, and we could get right down on the floor. I didn't even need computers or TV. I mean, we had a box and we could play make-believe, got to go to the park all the time and play on the swings. I mean, that's why I loved being a nanny. I didn't care about that I had to scoop up dog poop and take out people's garbage and clean the dishwasher out because I got to play, I did that while they were napping, right? But I got to play, right? So my inner child got to, and even my partner, he'll say that my inner child has a different voice. And I call her Chrissy, which is my middle name. He'll go, Chrissy really likes football. And I'm like, because I watch football with him, and I guess my child likes the football. It has kind of like a different persona, when she's spitting. So I decided to observe that. And he was right. I'm like, oh my God, I'm acting like I'm 8 years old or so at the football game. But he thinks it's funny, I think he thinks it's endearing. And I like, watching Disney shows and, just letting that part relax and honoring the child, especially because, early abuse is, kind of hampers the little child, has to kind of grow up really fast and learn how to be on its own. And, we weren't babied and mothered and doted on. And, so I think that's probably why we're so aware of our different parts, that I call them. So and then I got the wild side too, which is not all spiritual, that's the one that goes to Vegas. And I don't drink or do drugs or anything anymore, but I still have a wild time. And I thought, oh, my wild side's going to go away when I quit partying, with using substances, but nope, still alive, likes to be, outgoing and sexual. And, it's just like, that's part of me too. So I'm not all spiritual, I've got different aspects and I honor all that. And it makes me who I am. So.
I think for me, self-love means me honoring every part of me. I've even got a shadow side. I do a lot of shadow work because I believe there's a tremendous amount of power, energy, and information in the shadow. And so, I was raised, I spent a lot of time in fundamentalist Christian religions for quite a while. I don't now, but I have nothing against it, but I don't now. But I found that I just need to connect to all these different parts of who I am. I need to be able to be authentic to these other parts of who I am so that I can love all of me. And really, is all of me really even that bad? So when I tap into my shadow self, maybe I get warnings about someone who doesn't have my best interests at heart. Me, I tend to go, oh, no, don't think that way. Be in the light, see the light in them, see that they're a beautiful person, see that they're so wonderful or whatever. And I was always not listening to my shadow. So when I started listening to my shadow, sometimes I don't like my shadow at all. And I just go, I would really prefer it if you weren't here, but just give me your message and let's get this done. and over with, and then I can synthesize it in with what my rational mind and my light side, wants and what's best all around. I don't know if you have any experiences
I
like
agree with it. And I've never liked the word shadow self, but since I studied the polarization this last month, I understand it's the opposite. Right? You gotta have it. It polarizes you, so honoring it makes sense. And if you don't, you've got two lights or you've got two darks, but if you can do the light and the dark, bing, you're polarized. So, I mean, just now I had a little bit of a light clicked off. And I'm telling you, I cannot, I know this is weird. I cannot kill a spider, even though I hate them. I'm so paranoid of them. I have to take them outside, and then there's a whole process to do that because I'm so terrified of them. I can't even kill cockroaches. I have to try to catch them, and if they scurry away, I scream. But if somebody was going to attack me, there's a part of me that would come out, shadow side, and I would not go down without a fight. And could I kill that person? I think I could. That part of me could. But yet me could not kill a cockroach. But there's another side of me that would come in and boom, fight. At least fight, right? Viciously. So I recognize that as a good thing. I would hope that I would at least try to fight, not just, lay there and let myself, be attacked by something bad. Like I try to stay out of those circumstances, but I'm just saying, I think we should honor the dark with the light because I think that's healthy. As long as we have we stay in the center, right? Center self, right? And be awake. Don't sleep through life and just kind of get, drawn into life. I've started studying reality transurfing, and I don't know if you know what that is.
Refresh my memory, please.
Yeah, reality transurfing is fairly new, and it's about in New Zealand, has a couple of books out, and it's a pretty intensive metaphysical teaching, and it incorporates a lot of other teachings, right? Because it all comes from the divine. It talks about that our lifelines are like movies, and that if you don't wake up, you just stay in that film role. It just drags you along. However, if you wake up, you can compose your future frames in your film. It kind of uses an analogy of that. It's a movie analogy. So you can't change your past, you can't change your present, but you can compose your future. And so it's talking about manifesting, right? Really, another frame. But they talk about dropping importance on things, and also they talk about, which I understand is polarizing too. So say I want a car, and I put this in my article. I want this red car, and so you do all the things you do when you want something, right? You imagine driving it and blah blah blah. Well, then you got to have another side where you imagine that you didn't get the car, and you're okay with not having the car. Like you're completely fine that you didn't get the red convertible, and maybe you still have the money in the bank for it, whatever. You just don't care that you don't have it. Here you really want it, and here you just don't really care, and you see both of them. So that kind of takes the importance off of it, and then that'll create the circuitry in that. Then you can start working towards saving money towards the car and and making it happen. But you want to see both sides of your wants and desires. And you don't want to just be so, I want this, just so focused on it. And then you're like, well, I didn't get it, and I'm giving up. if about that scenario. And letting go of the outcome, that's another good tool for manifesting. But anyway, I don't know how I got off on manifesting from self-love. But I think when you're in a good frame and you're happy, then you can start creating and being co-creators with the universe, because we have that ability. But when you're all messed up and recreating abandonment, oh my gosh, and getting all off track, right, and hung up in past stuff, you're in some of these old loops. You gotta clean that stuff up so you can start having some fun with your life.
Absolutely. And I do think manifesting is part of self-love, because self-love is recognizing that we are it's not, I hate to use the word deserve because it makes it sound like some aren't deserving, but I think it's our birthright to have all the things that make us healthy, happy, creative, human beings on this planet. So I think manifesting, actually is part of self-love. But the part that a lot of people don't realize is we also have to make some shifts within, and that's what you've been talking about. And so, and that gets back a little bit to discipline and self-love, like making sure that we take in the best nutrition we possibly can. I do not understand how people can expect, because we become what we eat. Literally, that's what we become.
True.
My daughter recently gave birth, and she's got she had twins, and she's got these babies that are just growing like weeds, and all they're getting is breast milk. And the amount of speed that they're growing, and that they're so beautiful and healthy, and all they're getting is breast milk. So they're getting everything they need to become everything they need to become. So if we're not giving ourselves the precursors to our the different chemicals we need in our brain to feel good and to be alert. And if we're not giving ourselves all those things, then I say, why? Let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at that. And some people think self-love is just selfies with the phone. And they're missing that self-love is being the good parent within, in my opinion. And I don't know if you would agree with that, Julia. How do you think about that? Are you your good parent to your child and to your other aspects of you?
Yeah, and I'm pretty good about nutrition too. I think the only thing I'm really working on is right now is sugar, but I also try to have a balance. It's like I'm never gonna have another sweet. Oh, I like to say I'm on a live it. I don't like a diet because it says die in it, so I'm on a live it. I tell myself, you can eat whatever you want. You can eat whatever you want as much as you want. So I give myself permission, but then I don't, right? I make healthy choices. So if I want to have that half a piece of cake, probably a half a piece of cake, not the whole. I'll eat the frosting too. I'll allow that. But I'm not having cake all day long. I'm not having a whole cake. You know what I mean? It's everything in moderation. But like today, I have had water and sushi, like no rice, just some salmon sushi, because I knew I was doing this podcast. I didn't want any, heavy food or anything in me. And I do intermittent fast, not every single day, but I usually start my first meal around 12 or 11:30, and I have 2 meals a day because it just works with my metabolism. Now, if you're a younger person, it might not. You might need to eat every 2 hours, but that doesn't work. It raises my cortisol, and I do that.
Me too. I only eat twice a day, and I don't eat my first meal till about 11:30 as well.
Right.
So
I like to start the day with water, and sometimes I'll put the lemon in the apple cider vinegar and a little bit of Himalayan salt water, but not every single day. I mean, but I try to do that. I do have coffee. Black right now. I have 1 to 2 cups only in the morning, and then I'll drink tea in the afternoon. But I stay I stay away from fried. I don't go to fast foods, unless I absolutely have to. Like sometimes when you're on the road traveling, you really don't have a choice. You're not smart enough to bring something, But every time I eat it, it's I don't like it. But what I put in my body is extremely important to how I think and how I'm able to even meditate to begin with. So it is self-love, it's taking care of me, and then allowing myself to have a treat once in a while. I have pizza when we watch football, and we get these really thin crust ones though, and so they're not the big, or Dominoes or anything like that. They're all greasy and stuff like that. But I just try to, have fun with food. But,
Julia, we're starting to come closer towards the end, and I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about where people can find you. I know I mentioned it earlier on, but where can people find you? What are you doing? Tell us about your shows. Tell us where people can get more of your wisdom and your valuable teaching.
Okay, so my Facebook is open to the public. It's Hummingbird Jewel. If you search Facebook Hummingbird Jewel, Jewel, 2 words, my Facebook page will pull up under Julia Rogers. And this is because for the first 5 or 6 years I was on Facebook, I was under the name Hummingbird Jewel. So that's my URL at Facebook. Well, they made me change my name. That's a whole story. But if you Google Hummingbird Jewel, you're going to pull up my LinkedIn, you're going to pull up my Twitter, you're going to pull up my Instagram. Because the name Julia Rogers is so common, Hummingbird Jewel is not. So you're going to find me that way. And please subscribe to my YouTube. It's new, and that's where you'll find my book review shows. I'm doing some meditations on there. I'm going to start doing some reverse aging videos. I mean, it's a brand new channel. I'm really excited, but I need my first 1111 subscribers. They say 1,000, but I want 1,111. So I'm trying to, get some subscribers going, and I'm having a lot of fun with the book show. It's every Tuesday, but it does go over to my YouTube, so you don't have to watch it live. I do a Facebook Live interview with these authors that have written soulful books. And the cool thing about it is the divine guidance brings me to the authors, right? I find them through the divine. I ask them if they want to come on the show. They agree, and then I read their book. So it's not like I read a book and then I go after the author. So it's been so exciting. And I've had some great people on there with some great messages. So I've had 16 shows now and just having fun with that.
Yeah, I've watched several, and I've really, really, really enjoyed them. I would watch more, but I'm so busy producing my own shows and updating my website. There aren't enough hours in the day, but at the same time,
that's awesome.
I love your work. I love your work. It's wonderful, and I'm also I don't know. I'm feeling like I want a message from you for our audiences. I'm feeling like there's something you might want to say to everybody, and because we're coming to the end of the show, I don't want to miss any opportunities for people to really get your message. So I'm gonna.
You want me to pull a couple cards?
Sure.
Why don't we just do a couple of cards? The other day I was on a podcast and they asked me to do a reading for the world. I was like, I don't usually do readings for anything but people, but let's just do one for 2020 and see what happens.
Sure.
I don't know. You never know what's going to come through. So what I need you to do, Karen, is just to clear your mind and think about the new decade, 2020, the new decade. Let's do it that way.
Okay.
I'll just pull like 3 cards. That's what I was told. 3 cards, really? Never done a 3-card reading before. It's all new. And I call out to the positive powers of the universe, to our guides, masters, and angels. Assist me to open psychically and become a channel for the light. And this is for the benefit of all. And we're asking for what's coming in our new decade, or clearing for the new decade, 2020. So the cards for me are just like, it keeps my conscious mind busy, and then that way I can connect to the superconscious. It's kind of a little trick. And I use the Rider-Waite deck, so it has like kings and queens and peasants, and it's medieval times. And then there's like 4 suits in the decks and 28 major arcana cards, which mean big secrets. The suits are like akin to a playing deck, except there's cups, swords, wands, and pentacles representing love, like education or work, hardships, and money. Okay, we got 3 cards, and 2 of them are major arcana cards. The first card is the 4 of Cups, and the little guy's sitting underneath a tree, as you can see. And he is looking at 3 golden goblets that are sitting in front of him. And he's kind of has his legs crossed and his arms crossed. So he's kind of pondering. He's not too happy with the way things have been. He's wanting some change. And this has to do with love and emotions and our feelings. So this is about, okay, the past is the past, and now we got something new coming. But in the card, there's a little cup floating onto the side, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's floating with his hand. And he's not seeing it because he's so busy looking at what went wrong, but he's not seeing that it's right there coming up in front of you. So what my message would be from this is to clear out the old. If you need to do some crying over it, whatever. If you need to do some forgiveness, get with the forgiveness. And remember, forgiveness doesn't have to be for that person, just for you. So let things go, because when you do that, this love can come in. And it could be romantic love, but I'm not really seeing it like that. I'm just seeing that universal love. We can allow that in. We can connect to the divine. The next card is the Chariot card. It's a major arcana card. Shows a man, and he has in this chariot. The chariot's about movement, but taking things in small steps. You can have a big goal. That's fine. You can see your end frame, like I was talking about, the outcome. But in order to do that, you don't just sit back on the couch and go, okay, I did my, positive one and my negative one. Okay, do it. No, we got to make small increments. So if you take things in small increments to get to your goals, you will reach your goal. Now, the outcome might not be exactly like you thought it would be, because you want to let the divine have some play in it. Matter of fact, it might come out better. Or if you have the side where you didn't get it, there might have been a reason, because there's something else you're supposed to do. But as long as you're taking small steps, small increments. The third card is cataclysmic, the Tower. Now, the Tower is about total, like you can see the two people are, flying out of the tower. There's a lightning bolt. Wow, this is like out with the old, in with the new. I mean, we are going to just rip it apart. We're letting the past go. And I am seeing almost like a new timeline is what I'm hearing almost is opening for us. Wow. Okay. And we have that opportunity to jump on in there, to just let go of old thoughts, to let go of old feelings and thinkings, and really expand our minds and open ourselves up, because you have the yods in this picture that come in after the destruction of the tower, and we have nothing but clearance after that. And sometimes we have to have that breakdown to break through, right? And if something really bad is going on with your life, then, know there's going to be the other side of it too. But we're talking about like the world. So I'm kind of seeing like it's been kind of, but it's going to clear. We're going to kind of have this new beginning, almost like new beginning, like I saw like new beginning of a universe, like a new baby universe, coming or something like that. There you go. 3-card reading for the world.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, our time is up now, but I just want to tell you how much I've enjoyed our time together. I think we should get together and do it again in the new year. Feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you, Karen, for inviting me. And I just feel like you and I are like just sisters.
We're in the same family.
Yes. She's a kindred spirit for me.
We are. We are. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to Karen's YouTube channel, click the like button, and share this show with your friends. Check out Karen's website at KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. All the links are available in the description box below. Until the next time, keep up the good work.
Surrendering to endlessness puts all my inner strife to rest. For time gives birth to hurriedness. It all makes sense, well, more or less. And the sages put me to their test. With heart and soul to do my best to find the answers to my quest. I wonder and I must confess, I don't all an illusion, and I'm willing to play, 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 play. It's okay. It's okay.